Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Liam Foskett. I'm a junior here at Westfield State University, studying English with a concentration in writing. I'm here to talk to you about my experiences interning this spring with Professor Lee DeRozier for their literary journals Naugatuck River Review and Word Piece. I'm excited to share my exciting experiences as an editorial intern. First, I'll introduce my internship supervisor, Lee DeRozier. They're an incredible adjunct professor here at Westfield, and my internship was conveniently held in their office on the third floor of Scanlon. Every time we talked, I learned some fascinating details about their life. I enjoyed learning from someone so well traveled and with so many great stories to tell. Professor DeRozier founded their first journal, the Naugatuck River Review, in 2009. They and a group of volunteer editors with plenty of writing accolades review hundreds of poems submitted by poets across the globe. Professor DeRozier then physically publishes a curated batch twice each year. Naugatuck will be publishing its 30th edition very soon. Naugatuck River Review publishes poems 50 lines or under that qualify as narrative poetry. That definition I learned from Professor DeRozier's can be tricky, but the essence is something like this: is something needs to happen. In narrative poetry, some conflict and or transformation needs to occur. That qualifier plus a cash contest amounts to a deeply impressive work. Professor DeRozier's more recent literary journal is Word Piece, a fully online publication of poetry, prose, nonfiction, and art, all focused on some aspect of social justice. The journal has a small audience and a small pool of submissions, but Lee hopes to change that with more promotion. The upcoming issue contains a special section on bodily autonomy as it relates to trans and reproductive rights. The process of applying for the internship was stress-free. Last semester, after a great experience with Interlink Publishing in Northampton, I asked my internship coordinator, Dr. Michael Files, how else I could explore the publishing world. He connected me with Lee, and I submitted a simple query email. We started our meetings a few weeks into the semester. I met with Professor DeRozier in their office every Monday from 1:45 to 3:30, though the exact timing would vary depending on the week. Towards the end of the semester, we often would reschedule to a Wednesday meeting. Beyond that time, I completed most of my work remotely. I was able to log my required 120 hours fairly easily. My work as an editorial intern essentially boiled down to the work of an additional reader for these journals. For Word Piece, I was assigned a few collections of about 15 submissions through the industry standard site, Submittable. Each poet's submission usually contained between 2 to 5 poems. I wrote up a brief explanation of the poems I liked or didn't like. I only started receiving packets of Naugatuck River Review submissions in the second half of my internship. Before I did, though, I briefly had a hand in making sure each submission was stripped of any identifying information so the journal's editors could read them blind. That process involved downloading files from Submittable, scrubbing them, and moving those renamed files into a OneDrive file. The review process for Naugatuck River Review was more specific and limited than Word Piece. I simply responded with the index number of the poems I liked in the packet. While Word Piece decisions sometimes involved maybes, there were 500 submissions to review for Naugatuck, so I could only accept what knocked my socks off. The process of reading pieces, organizing them into readable packets, and, with Word Piece, entering them into a formatted journal was familiar to me. The work was very similar to my work with Westfield State's official literary journal, Persona. Through this internship, I reaffirmed my love for curating poetry and prose submissions with a critical eye and gained workflow knowledge that would help with Persona. My work reading for Naugatuck River Review and Word Piece taught me to use essential programs for modern literary journals like Submittable and WordPress. I had used Submittable as a submitter before, but viewing the system from the other side was fascinating. Several features like the acceptance rejection letter automation and filtering results per project were interesting, and I became comfortable with the site fairly quickly. WordPress was entirely new to me. I actually used this simple website building tool for my Career Prep for Writers course to build my own blog. My experience creating drop-down menus for writers and categories in Word Piece directly contributed to how I organized my blog for that class. There was a bit of a learning curve, but Lee was very available to help via email. By far, the highlight of my internship was my trip to the annual Association of Writers and Writing Programs Conference and Book Fair, held in 2023 in Seattle, Washington, also called AWP. The conference is held each year in a different city for industry professionals in small press publishing, literary journals, writing education, and anything else related to writing. Most of my trip was spent tabling with Professor DeRozier for both journals. I got there as early as I could for 2 days of the convention to help set up the table. I laid out printed copies of Naugatuck, flyers for Word Piece, branded pens, and bookmarks. Throughout the day, I greeted people walking by and explained to them why they should submit to either journal. Professor DeRozier also generously allowed me some time to explore and network at other tables of the convention floor. A lot of my conversations were with small presses and literary journals looking for more submissions and readers. Hearing about all the options I have for submitting my own work from in-person representatives gave me a better sense of the publications out there. There were also a handful of paying magazines and major publishing companies that I got to exchange my information with. Swapping writing stories with people I would never have met otherwise was exciting. I am currently looking into applying to master's programs soon, so asking real students and faculty about low residency arrangements, course loads, and success stories was a unique chance to learn more. The travel, which was partially funded by the university in several different ways, involved the second, third, fourth, and fifth planes I've ever been on in my life. Getting to explore an entirely different coast for a few days was an incredibly rare opportunity for me, and it was valued. I greatly enjoyed the simple pleasure of exploring a new place. As I've mentioned before, I gained a new depth of understanding about so many aspects of the world of the professional writer. I'm certain that so many key details of MFA programs, small press publishing, and publishable poetry will be lost on me without this internship. My most regrettable aspect would be the handful of chances I missed to contribute because of a mistake on the process on my part. Thank you to Professor Lee DeRozier for all of your hard work and generosity. Thank you to Lumis Jarvinen and the whole team at Kirka for helping to fund my trip to Seattle. Thank you to Professor Filas for your help with the business of credits for this internship. And thank you to Westfield State as an institution for this wonderful opportunity. I thank you again.